Good morning. It's so good to be with you. And first and foremost, let me simply put out my support and give honor to our bishop, Bishop John Marcos, who I've considered him not only my bishop, but my closest friend. He's had my back since I've returned to upstate New York. And I also want to send out a special shout to Michelle Josephson, who so graciously has put this edition together and allowed me to come before you this morning. So as my time slips away, I don't want to miss out on anything because I'm full of Jesus this morning. So I just like to be able to say, give a message to America, to the Christian church, and most important of all, to the ELCA. And I explain it in 3 words. I am angry. My anger takes me all over the place, but I like to be able to explain my anger by using this graphic illustration. I call it the racism time warp. For 60 years now, including what has happened to us over the last 9 days, to see another young man of African descent, it could have been a woman too, taken away from us for unneeded violence. And so as I watched those pictures of that policeman's knee on young Floyd Floyd's neck, God rest his soul, I found myself in my racism task warp, taking me back to 1961. Let me go back even further than that. February 1st, 1960. I remember as a child watching on TV those 4 students down in Greensboro, North Carolina, sitting at a counter, and all they wanted to do was eat a meal and to watch the European Americans of that town pour coffee and milkshakes and food and throw and label all of those insults, but yet they took it. I'm angry. 1961 was my very first encounter of racism in the church. A white European American pastor had come from Gettysburg College, and he started on the congregation, to give you a clue, 4th and Central Park in Rochester, New York. He came and brought us and took us to Vacation Bible School. We had a great time. And my brother and I look forward to going to church. He gave us the invitation. And on September 9th, 1961, I remember our very first Sunday, and I'll never forget it. And that's why I'm angry. And my brother and I was always taught, we are special. You don't need to sit in the back any place. You sit up front. And we sat in the very front pews. And it's amazing that when I turned around, the entire European American congregation had moved back 4 or 5 rows just so that they would not be close enough to us. I'm angry. When my brother and I went up to the altar to pray, those that were at the altar got up and walked. I'm angry. When I hear our president talk about dogs being sicked on people, my warp took me back to 1963. When I watched on my little black and white 5-inch TV, those folks who had a nonviolent march, I watched German Shepherd dogs being sicked on young people my age. Today, if you ask any young person of my generation, we have a fear of German Shepherd dogs to this day because of what we saw. I'm angry. 1964. I was raised and brought up and lived in the Hanover houses in Rochester, New York. Some folks might know where that is. It's no longer there, but it's just a memory. In 1964, there was a racial unrest. There was a killing unlawfully. And every store on Joseph Avenue and Hudson Avenue was burnt to the ground. Our stores, our businesses, friends and people that we had supported the whole time, we could go to the stores, burnt down and gone. But where it made me angry is Woolworths, FC Woolworths. That was where I received my call to ministry. And I'm angry that that was one of the stores that was destroyed by fire. I'm angry because between 1963 up to 1966, we were bused. They had this segregated busing. They took many of us young African-American students who didn't have adequate education or books or even know-how because the resources were so limited. Many of our parents had never gone to school. And if they had, they probably hadn't gotten no further than 5th grade. And here they take us into these schools, middle school, and introduce us to a curriculum we had no idea what was going on. They segregated us in groups 7-1, 7-2, 7-3. It was based upon not only your reading ability, but your behavior. I'm angry. All the times between kindergarten and elementary school and middle school. What I'm angry about is I saw not one picture, a positive picture image of somebody that looked like me. The only thing I saw, they showed the Indians also graciously serving the pilgrims with their corn and wheat. But all the images that I got about persons that looked like me were folks that were brought over here in chains. We were called cannibals. And most important of all, they would blackface white folks to make fun of us and told us that we were not any good. I'm angry. 1966. Segregation again caused busing. Many of us lived on Scioto Street. And we had a choice between Ben Franklin, which was an all-black school, and East High School, which was a white school. And knowing the fear that we felt, many of us signed up to go to Franklin. But because of the redistricting, of the rezoning of our district, we were now given a choice to go to East High School. An African-American population, most of the young brothers on my corner, we're still tight to this day. We were bused to East High School. The Black population in 1966 in East High School was 1/10. And I'm angry because every May in 66, 67, 68, 69, and 70, everybody would call it, there would be a riot on the campus. And their one intention was to cause us harm. I'm angry. 1968. That was the first time I actually got a chance to sit in a Black history class. For the first time in my life, I saw 4 positive role models that looked like me. Booker T. Washington, Martin Luther King Jr., Harriet Tubman, and George Washington Carver. Nothing else. But then I also had the opportunity and also the saddening experience of watching 2 outstanding prophets, Robert Kennedy and my hero, Martin Luther King Jr., both assassinated within months of one another. 1968, I saw Hudson Avenue again burned down to a crisp. I saw Joseph Avenue again being burnt to a crisp. I saw stores on Portland Avenue burned to a crisp. I saw people, or at least businesses and people, on Clifford Avenue and Central Park, businesses burned. 1968. And the only positive thing we can get out of 1968 that sort of kept my time-worth anger in check was James Brown came out with a song that sort of gave us a little encouragement so that we could tune down our anger. And the song went, "Say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud." It was through that song that we then was able to develop our own hairstyles and our dashikis and our platforms and all the things that we could identify with. But then people would look down on us and thought we were freak shows. I'm angry. I've been pulled over by cops by many times. I even was asked by a young 16-year-old girl who worked in one of our local drugstores. I was old enough to be her grandfather. She had the audacity to ask me, "Sir, before I sell you this, I need to see some kind of ID." From a 16-year-old European American girl. I recall my days at a fellow Lutherans at a college, which is also in Rochester. I don't want to go into the names, but it was a free Methodist school. I was one of 4 Black students on that campus. By the grace of God, a good saintly woman, God rest her soul, Ruth McIntyre, took me there. She enrolled me. She got me started. In all 4 years, these are the words that I heard. They smiled in my face, but when it came time, they always say, this is a reincarnation of John Calvin. They couldn't use the N-word, but they came up with a code that all the Black students on campus were the resurrection of John. I was upset. And even when I went off to graduate school, I'm still anchored. It was not about me, about my faith journey. All we had shoved down our throats was Lutheran theology, which we had to have. But it was all about Luther. It was all about Germany. It was all about everything else that we, few Black students, we only got the chance to see each other once in our seminary careers. And we would sit, and half the time they would never even respect some of the thoughts that we had when it came to Black theology and liberation. Yes. I remember going in certification and endorsement. I don't want to go there either, but it was an ugly time. And I even had a church official trying to see if he could have me sweat and kick and say something that would again cancel my certification and endorsement. He made the statement, we don't allow N-word in our church. My response to him that day was this: that's your opinion. But my parents, who I truly valued, said to me that when Jesus Christ died on Calvary, he took your hand, he took my hand, he joined it to the Father, and he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Oh, that was the time by which anger was in reverse, because then they got angry. Yes, I went on, I graduated, I was certified for ordination. But again, what I'm angry about is white pastors with white privilege. They were able to get the best churches. And Black candidates like myself, we had to wait until a congregation broke down church, boilers busted. Very seldom could they pay a full salary, medical and dental. We would have to wait. And what I'm angry about is, once you got there, you had to make it work because there was no other calls that were available. You couldn't go to a white congregation because they had not been trained and properly prepared for that. But what I'm angry about is they can take a white pastor, a European American pastor, and put him in a Black congregation. And that was all right. As I conclude, I like to be able to read in the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a word he had to say before he was assassinated. And I've held these words to my heart ever since. I have them framed on my wall here on my study. And Dr. King says these words: I've seen too much hate to want to hate myself, and I've seen hate on the faces of too many sheriffs, too many white citizens, and too many Klansmen of the South to want to hate me, myself, and everything I see. I say to myself, hate is too great a burden to bear. Somehow we must be able to stand up before our most bitter opponents and say, we shall match your capacity to inflict suffering by our capacity to endure suffering. We will meet your physical force with soul force. Do to us what you will, and we will still love you. We cannot in all good conscience obey your unjust laws and abide by your unjust systems, because non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good. And so throw us in jail and we will still love you. Bomb our homes and threaten our children. And as difficult as it is, we will still love you. Send your hooded perpetrators of violence into our communities at midnight and drag us out of some wayside road and kill us, or leave us half dead as you beat us. And we will still love you. Send your propagation agents around the country and make it appear that we are not fit, culturally and otherwise, for integration purposes. We will still love you. But be assured that we'll wear you down by our capacity to suffer. And one day we will win our freedom. We will not only win freedom for ourselves, but we'll win appeal to your heart and conscience. That we will join you in the process. And you will join us too in the process, and our victory will be double. There is to be peace on earth and goodwill towards men. We must finally believe in the ultimate morality of the universe and believe that all reality hinges on the moral foundations. Brothers and sisters, I'm angry, but I still love you. There's still a ways to go. And I pray and hope if there are any Bible texts within the sound of my voice, my 2-fiber Bible text that I have used, I have preached many times, and I share with young people, especially folks of color, who come along behind me. Please make sure you read Psalm 27 every day. Make sure you read Psalm 77 every day. Because like me, you're going to find yourself every single time in this country. There's going to be a time warp, and it's going to draw you back in to that mind and that scars and those things that we want to forget. But it's continually brought up because evil still surrounds us. We know it as racism. We know it as white supremacy. And we know it as white privilege. It's been a joy. And God bless you. And I hope that we can pass this trail again. A few years where we can say there is no more racism, no more white privilege, no more, again, white supremacy. God bless. And I say to you in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen.